All right. Okay, welcome everyone. How's everyone doing? This is Bernardine. I'm actually in Atlanta. Apologize to you for getting a little bit late. Actually got tied up on a call. Well, let's welcome everyone, first of all, to our presentation for tonight. We're going to hear from Dr. Kort as well as Jonathan Jones. Let's hear where you're from. Let's hear where you're from.
Donnell, South Carolina.
Thank you, Donnell, for getting us started. We have 30 so far. Hopefully, we're going to have a few more people here.
Kenneth from North Carolina.
Kenneth, how are you doing today?
Stephanie from Renton, Washington.
Beautiful, Stephanie. Wonderful to have you here tonight.
Amy Nesbitt.
This is Nesbitt.
Mamie Nesbitt from Atlanta.
Okay, very nice. Welcome, Amy. Okay, this is your opportunity. We have only a couple of minutes before everything is going to start. This is your opportunity to everyone to introduce yourself. Tell a little bit about where you're from before we get started.
Nick Williams from Tampa, Florida.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh,
well, we welcome
Errol from Miramar, Florida.
Excellent, Errol. Good to have you here.
Hey, chat. We got.
Hi, this is Phobia, California.
Okay, we welcome you now, Phobia.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Sally from Canada, Quebec, Canada.
Wow. We have Canada here. Excellent,
Canada.
excellent.
That's my brother's name, but I know
We have I said that's his brother's name. All right. This is your opportunity to tell where you're from. We have Canada, we have Washington, we have North Carolina. We have people from a lot of places.
So welcome to come. I'll just put the information in case you'd like to go.
And I want to welcome Dr. Russell Kort. Kort, we're going to get a chance to hear from him tonight. All you new affiliates are going to hear some excellent information. So once again, we just want to welcome everyone.
Joyce from Florida.
Thank you, Joyce. Let me see what we're looking at. We're right at 5 o'clock and we believe in getting started. So 30 seconds. You have 30 seconds to tell where you're from.
Rose Wilson, Michigan.
Welcome, Michigan.
Mia, Columbia, South Carolina.
Excellent. Columbia, South Carolina in the house. All right, excellent.
Valerie from Albany, New York.
Beautiful. Good to have you here, Valerie. Well, let's get started. So, first of all, my name is Bernardine. I'm in Atlanta. Okay, yeah, excellent. I think I'm unmuted. Okay, we want to welcome everyone to our meeting tonight. It's going to be a special meeting tonight because tonight we're going to get a chance to hear from actually some of our top people here, especially when it comes to knowing about health, having the validation of actually helping us to see why this is a great time to be on this call. Whether you are here for health reasons or you're here just out of curiosity, you're going to hear some excellent information tonight. My name is Bernardine. Well, I want to take this opportunity I don't see Jonathan. Is Jonathan on? Okay, excellent. All right. It's Jonathan. I came into this business, I came into the company, I should say, in July. So one of the reasons why I took a close look at this company is because when Jonathan Jones first introduced me to this company, he told me how wonderful the health products were. Well, as some of you know, when people tell us about things, they tell us about things because usually they're just trying to get into your pocket, and then you take these products and they don't work. Well, after about 5 months of really begging me to try these products, I finally decided to go ahead and try them. And once I did, within actually about 2 weeks, I noticed such a drastic improvement in my health. I actually started talking to my wife when we were walking one day. We were walking about 3 miles. And I was telling her how wonderful I was enjoying the product because I thought she wasn't taking them. but I noticed my product was disappearing pretty quick. And I asked my wife, I said, you know what, I'm having a great time with these products, but they don't last long. My wife looked at it and said, yeah, the products are working for me too. She would not actually order with me when I first started. And after she saw the improvements with me, she started taking them too. And here we are, a part of Engage Global. And it's been one of the most wonderful health conscious rides that we've ever had. And I introduced it to a bunch of my friends, and I started getting stories that was unbelievable. Well, tonight, if you're new with this company, if you're new with the trying out health products, you're going to hear some invaluable information. I recommend that you please call your friends, call anybody you love and tell them to get on this call, because you're going to hear some things that's going to absolutely blow you away. So the person I'm going to introduce you to that introduced the products to me, Jonathan Jones, please take note as he actually joins with his guest today, Dr. Russell Kort, and they're going to bring some invaluable health information to us. Put your hands together and welcome our moderator for today, Dr. Well, he ain't a doctor, but he comes really close, Jonathan Jones. Jonathan, you come pretty close, boy. I tell you, you answer some crazy questions for me. Take it away, Jonathan.
I'm a layman. I'm a layman. I get excited when it comes to health related matters, because I believed that the human body was much like a computer. My background is computer electronics and engineering, but it was when I watched my mother die and the intensive care nurse said to me that she said this directly to me. She said, when I asked her what they were doing for my mom, she said, well, to be honest with you, we're praying that her immune system kick in. And I couldn't believe it, because she was being very sincere and very serious that that's what they were having, that they had to offer for my mom. So, and it was at that moment that I realized that nothing in my line of work could have extended my mother's life, not 1 minute. But if I had an immune system kicker in her, my mom, I believe, would still be here today. So her mother was still alive. So I'm convinced that it could have made a big difference for her. And sure enough, the body is much like a computer. So I believe that if there's a cause, there's an effect. So you can reverse engineer anything. And so that's what got me into doing research. So I'm the research director for the Healthcare Support Association of America, a small private, not-for-profit, non-profit philanthropic organization. Our goal is to educate and to get as much information out to people so that those who have been disenfranchised and underserviced can be educated about options that they can do, simple options that they can do. So that's what led us to having conferences like this on the weekend. We've been providing education to thousands of people all over the country and in various parts of the world even. So it does keep me excited. But the FDA has not evaluated any of the comments that I'm making. Nothing that is said here should be considered as a substitute for a visit to your primary healthcare professionals. Dr. Kort is not a medical doctor. I'll tell you a little bit about him in just a moment, but recognize that we strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust when it comes to making decisions about your health and well-being. What we're discussing today is for information, education, and entertainment purposes only. That's it. So you can take this information into consideration when making decisions about your health and well-being, because quite frankly, we are very short on options. Not much has changed in the 20 years since my mother died. For the most part, the medical system is still trying to target the immune system and trying to make it work better. When it's amazing that it has the ability to do what it does already. So, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. So, but today's subject matter is one that really affects every single human being. We said that we were going to be talking about micronutrients and EMF, the relationship between them. There's going to be a frank discussion about the pros and the cons, the benefits, or is there harm? Is it harmless? When I went to school for electronics, they said that there's this EMF that's perfectly harmless to humans. That's what I learned. That was back in the late 70s, early 80s. So I lived my life that way, thinking that there was that was not doing any harm to anyone, but I know different now. And Dr. Kort has some expertise in that area. Dr. Kort, his level of research he was able to provide enough information that made a huge difference. And in fact, everybody on this call right now, no doubt, has been affected one way or the other by the research that Dr. Kort has done and shared with even folks like Dr. Prasad. So, but we'll talk a little bit about that as we go. But to lay the foundation for our discussion, we'd like to share a video. And Nick, can we cue that video? It talks a little bit about 5G and 5G radiation. And then we're going to come back and have a discussion with Dr. Kort, Dr. EMF himself. But
our world has changed. Old answers to new problems are no longer good enough. Having a strong and healthy immune system is more important now than ever before. Invisible threats to our immune system are all around us. Some of these threats are natural, but many are not. Technology and advancement do not come without a price. Modern technology has provided answers to problems, but in many cases, it has become the problem. One new technology that will impact all of us is 5G. It's a powerful new technology with many benefits, but along with these benefits, there may also be great risks to our health. How much risk to our health does 5G represent? Big business says none at all. But many experts are raising an alarm to the fact that 5G is a big experiment in human health, and we are the guinea pigs. They told us tobacco was safe, and not to worry about radiation from their nuclear bomb testing. The truth is, their interests do not align with ours. Important scientific evidence indicates that 5G EMF radiation could be very harmful to our health. Here are a few facts that big business will not tell you. Did you know that 5G emits EMF radiation that can be 700 times more powerful than early cell phone networks? More than 500 studies have found that exposure to EMF radiation is harmful to our health. And these studies were done before 5G existed. The International EMF Scientist Appeal, which calls for stronger exposure limits to EMF radiation, was signed by over 240 leading scientists in the field. The World Health Organization's International Agency for Research on Cancer classified EMF radiation as possibly cancerous to humans back in 2011. Other studies have shown that 5G radiation can damage our DNA, compromise our immune systems, cause fatigue, inflammation, headaches, brain fog, sleep abnormalities, depression, and many other health issues. The reality of this new world we live in is that it will be virtually impossible to avoid daily exposure to 5G EMF radiation. 5G is here to stay, and it could chip away at our immune systems and our health if we are not prepared. In 1945, the United States dropped atomic bombs on Japan, demonstrating the horrors of radiation damage. The world was changed forever. But from the ashes grew a consciousness that touched a young boy in India named Dr. Prasad.
Born in 1935 and in a way in a small village under British occupation, because at that time British was ruling India. When I was in India, at that time there was a Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing and a lot of people got killed. So I thought that I should develop some product which can save people from radiation damage. So I decided to study radiation biology and came to the United States, University of Iowa, Iowa City, to study that. And that was the only program in the whole world on radiation program and in PhD, and I finished in 3 years.
Dr. Prasad went on to become the world's first radiation biologist and one of the world's most published professors and researchers on nutrition and human health. The determination and volume of work from this remarkable man set the stage for what was to come next. In 2001, Marine Corps Systems Command approached Dr. Prasad with a problem. Active troops were 4 times more likely to contract illness and disease. Working with the Department of Defense, NASA, and a team of independent scientists and researchers, Dr. Prasad led the charge to create a powerful supplement to protect the soldiers from the inside out. After 6 years of intense effort, with congressional funding and over $24 million invested, and after 14 clinical trials, a powerful new supplement called Military Micronutrient Formulation, or MMF, was ready for the world.
So this is a powerful product that we have developed, which not only improves the health of the people, but also protect against the radiation damage, UV damage, and also environmental stressor that we already face. So this is a powerful product that we developed, and it took a long time to develop.
As the world's first radiation biology PhD recipient, who holds the only known patent for micronutrient protection from radiation, Dr. Prasad is uniquely qualified to develop an answer to the threat of 5G EMF radiation. It is his life work. Dr. Prasad has taken his original MMF formulation and enhanced it with 4 new ingredients to combat the effects of radiation. He also added methylated folic acid and vitamin B12 to enhance absorption and effectiveness. This new product is a patent-pending supplement called Micro-Daily EMF Radiation Defense. It has all of the powerful benefits of the original U.S. military formulation that promotes our body's optimal immune system and anti-inflammation response. But in addition, it includes the added strength to defend and protect your body against the new threats of 5G EMF radiation. Our health is by far the biggest determining factor to our overall state of well-being. More than wealth, more than job satisfaction, our health is key to living a full life. Built upon the foundation of Dr. Prasad's scientific authority and his impeccable character.
The introduction is fine. So that took care of it. Very good, very good. Thank you very much. And the purpose of that was to at least give the introduction so you could see the history of 5G and radiation and the connection to Dr. Prasad. So we don't need to go into the other parts there of the benefits of the product. We'll touch on that a little bit. And you can always have access to that video. So whoever invited you, they can share a link to that video so you can see the entire rest of it and take your time with it and see the additional parts of it that we just cut out. But I'd like to now take the time to introduce Dr. Russell Kort. Let me tell you just a little bit about Dr. Kort. He's a lead clinician. Dr. Kort, he pioneered work. The work that he pioneered was uncovering an innate sequence to healing, which starts in the brain, specifically at night. So he's really targeted the brain. He's focused a lot of information on the brain. He's a faculty member of the Sleep Balance Academy. His work at Dr. EMF was highlighted in Epoch Times as a clinical leader in the field of digital wellness health trends of 2022. He's an author, public speaker, chiropractor, lead clinician of Dr. EMF, the chairman of the Defender Shield Medical and Science Advisory Board, and was in 2019 the Innovator of the Year for Brain Tap Technologies. His specialties in a multi-model personalized approach to healing. So Dr. EMF knows a little bit something about how to make us feel better and how to make everyone feel better. He's focused quite a bit on EMF itself, 35 years of medical experience, and with a whole host of other components to his resume that is, in my opinion, simply mind numbing. So, Dr. Kort, thank you very much for your willingness to come on and sit down and have a chat with us and let me kind of pick your brain a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here, Jonathan. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
Okay, good.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. The folks who are on here now are excited because anyone who has expertise in the areas that you have, and it sounds like it's a plethora of things. It's a wide variety of things, and that's great. And I'm going to lay the foundation right now, just so you know. I'm going to ask you to come back so we can talk some more about the other things that we will not have a chance to get to today. So just warning you right now, be prepared.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
But to tell me something, with the chiropractic background, what motivated you to focus on EMF?
Well, my first background was actually in emergency medicine for 10 years. And with that, I never rushed into a situation without looking at what that situation was and what I was going into. And regarding EMF, I was blessed. In 1987, I rode a bicycle around Australia. Well, not quite all the way around. 6,500 miles down the east coast of Australia and hitchhiked over 15,000 miles from a place called Port Hedland to Darwin to Cairns to Melbourne. And during that time, some mates of mine decided that they owned a bike shop, but they wanted to expand. So they brought cell phones into Australia. And so I was part of the beginning of importing cell phones into Australia. And we had this big giant 5-pound phone called a Motorola bag phone that, I made extra money installing those into cars and walking around and showing people how cool it was to have this giant phone that you could talk on and you didn't have to be on a landline. So that's how I started.
Wow. That's a lot of time spent on a bicycle, number one. But
that's a whole different story that we can talk about.
My goodness, though, but for you to be, connected to the reason why cell phones made it to Australia. So I don't know if the Australians should be thanking you or hunting you down, but that's a different discussion also. But let me ask you, since we're on that topic, the video that we just watched, it makes it sound like EMF and radiation is really just frying us like we're in microwaves. Was it exaggerating the facts?
No.
So there was no exaggeration there at all.
You know what? I want you to think about this. Does an X-ray always work? Like in my clinic, I shot X-rays. I've been a chiropractor for 23 years, and I shot X-rays. I was a specialist in the top bone in the neck. It required that I shot X-rays through the neck, through the top of the head, and through the front of the head, and I hated every moment of it. Every time I took an exposure, I felt guilty because I knew that I was shooting ionizing radiation into this person's brain. But in order to help them, I felt like that was part of the technique that I was taught at school, and I hated every moment of it. And no one ever said, "This is not going to work on me." No one said, "Jonathan, no, this is not going to work on me." Nope, it worked every single time, unless I didn't have the technique right, and then it went into them and didn't come out and didn't make an exposure, which was even worse. And when I was introduced to this company back about 8 years ago, and realized the magnitude that we had in the MMF product, the military micronutrient product, my life changed.
And I hope that you'll tell us a little bit more about that in just a minute, but because it's kind of right in line with what I'm thinking next, because it sounds to me like I should be wearing a tinfoil hat or some kind of a space suit. So is that kind of where you're getting ready to go with this relationship with MMF?
No. So, we have ionizing radiation and we have non-ionizing radiation, and they are different yet the same. So ionizing radiation is the radiation that comes from, like, for instance, Hiroshima, from X-rays. And you think about it, I mean, those that take X-rays, the hospital takes X-rays, dentists take X-rays, chiropractors take X-rays, and we've kind of gotten nonchalant about it and said, "Oh, this is not such a big deal." But then in the last, since '87, when I brought cell phones into Australia, but even in the early 90s. And I would say my symptoms of non-ionizing radiation sensitivity started in 99. It's been a long time.
Wow.
And non-ionizing radiation breaks down the cellular network the same as ionizing radiation. It just takes a little longer. And so the research wasn't out there, and we were trying to figure out, what can we do? We have to measure. And that's what we've spent the last 8 years doing, is measuring the effects of the non-ionizing radiation. And it's not just 5G. Everybody's up in arms about 5G, as they should be, but it's 5G, it's 4G, it's 3G. We no longer have 2G and 1G. Then we have all the bees in the room. So for instance, and I'm just going to throw out some little gold nuggets along the conversation, okay? Yeah. I'm sitting here in front of my laptop, and you can see that I have these glasses on. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But as I'm sitting there, I'm starting to feel anxiety. I'm starting to feel a little uncomfortable. My heart's starting to palpate because I actually—
This is you personally.
This is me. I actually have been blessed to be able to feel electric fields.
So you can tell when you're being exposed to an electrical field.
Yeah, and sometimes I just kind of try and blow it off until all heck breaks loose. So you know what I did to satisfy the problem is I'm sitting here in front of my laptop. I unplugged it. Now it's on battery. Now I'm not getting the voltage from my laptop, which is about 45 volts. What do we know about voltage? Well, if it's plugged in and you throw it in water, it's going to be a bad day, no matter what. Yeah. Bathing with a hairdryer will always be a bad day if it's plugged in. So I unplugged it, and brain started to clear up. A lot of people don't think about that when they're at work and they're starting to feel foggy and agitated. Unplug it, go to battery.
Wow, that's interesting.
First tip.
That is interesting. Okay, so short of we have to plug in, and it's going to be around us no matter what. 5G is almost everywhere. You told me I don't have to wear a tinfoil hat and I can't get a spacesuit. So is there anything else that I can do then to say insulate myself from what's happening around me?
Yeah, I mean, we have to look at this smart, Jonathan. When it comes to non-ionizing radiation like 5G, 4G, 3G, and all of the bees in the room, I love that term because there are more than one or two things. For instance, the average family of 4 has 17 devices that run on Wi-Fi. One of the simple things you can do is shut the Wi-Fi off your phone, right? Okay. Put it on airplane mode whenever necessary. It's time, distance, and shielding. Okay? Time. How much time am I going to spend in front of the electronics? And distance. How far away am I going to position myself? Now, when we're videoing this, we need to have good light. So I have a light here and a light above me. And, we have to do that so that we can have good lighting. But how much time am I going to spend in that environment? And this is something that we have to decide for ourselves. And then shielding. And so, there are some companies out there that put out some clothing. You had mentioned the company that I'm the chair for their scientific advisory board. I've created some products that they brought to market. One of the products are the glasses that I'm wearing. So these are a pair of readers, but this is kind of my brainchild idea. It's a little magnetic clip. And this little magnetic clip, this is 100% UV protection from the computer screen. Why? Well, our eyes haven't changed in the last 20,000 years. What's changed is the pixels. And if you think about the eye for a second, the eye, and we'll talk about this next time, but the eye has no protection.
Right.
So everything that we're looking at goes and affects the optic nerve and affects various parts of the brain. A third of the brainstem is devoted to the eye itself. And it was one of the first cranial nerve was smell, second cranial nerve was eye. And there's, other cranial nerves that are associated with that. So we have to think about that. The other things that we can do to help ourselves is, our brainstem is found behind our eyes and between our ears. Okay. So you can get covers for your phones, but it's probably not a grand idea to stick this against your brainstem and expect that nothing's going to happen. And in our research, what we're finding is, and you've said this, I've heard you say this, we are on a vertical climb of all-cause mortality. But we're on a vertical climb of all-cause mortality that's associated with central structure cancers and other issues. Okay, so let me just point this out for a second. And this is that aha moment that people have. And this is my world. We stick this against our brain. That's not a cool idea. Well, if you're like me, I can't stick it against my brain because it makes my brain hurt. Well, then we go like this and we say, well, I'll just talk on speakerphone and point it at my thyroid. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. This should be like a George Carlin thing, I don't think that this is a good idea. The other thing that people do is if they don't point it at their thyroid, then they point it at their heart. Well, in our measurement, we measure, and I can go into this, we measure a lot of different things in our clinic at Dr. EMF. By the way, I'm not Dr. EMF. I'm the president of the company, but I have a whole team of researchers that work with me. We are a group called Dr. EMF. But if we point it at our heart, what we find in heart rate variability is, I would estimate 98% or higher that we find issues in the heart, the pericardium, or the surrounding of the heart, and the small intestines, which is what we're going to talk about when we go into products. So 98% of the people that I measure, we have an issue with the heart. Well, guess what? If you point the radiation device at your heart, it's not going to be cool. Then we drop it down. We point it at our small intestines. Then we drop it down a little further. And we point it at the genitals. And then, here's the bottom line. Boys carry this in their front pocket. Girls carry this in their back pocket. And every time you get a notification bell, it hits you with a blast of radiation. Think about it.
Goodness. Oh my goodness! You just and folks are wondering why there's issues.
Kind of a mic drop, isn't it?
Yeah, my goodness. So this is sobering, and I think that everyone needs to have these eye-opening moments. That because I've told folks on our program that leukemia used to be the #1 form of cancer in children, and about I think 5 or 6 years ago, the World Health Organization announced that glioblastoma, brain cancer, became the #1 form of cancer in children. And you would think that the world would have had an aha moment, that there would have been a light bulb that goes off. Is there a causal connection here? Is there a possibility that this whole demonstration that you just gave us could potentially have had an impact on children to make one form of cancer outpace another?
Well, there's a lot of research out there. In fact, we have some leaders in the company that have written about high tension power lines and the effects in children with leukemia. Okay, that is very, very real. In fact, Dr. Prasad's first study was done on flies and lymphocytic leukemia when given proton radiation. And the flies that drank the formula, 90% of the flies that drank the formula never got the cancer.
That's
but 100% of the flies that did not drink the formula got the cancer. So when we look at our environment, we have to look at all the bees in the room. If you live near high tension power lines, that's a problem. If you live near, I live near a substation, and it was terrible for me. I had to move my bed, across the room and do some things to try and protect ourselves. Even when we go into hotel rooms, Jonathan, we lay. I mean, this is something people don't think about, but let's just dig in this just slightly. We'll touch it. But you lay against the headboard. So when you lay against the headboard, there's a lamp on either side of the bed. Both those lamps and then the charging stations run through the headboard, which runs right through the back of your cabeza. And we wonder, does this have an effect? Well, there's another bed on the other side of the wall that has the headboard there too. So you have double the damage there.
Wow. And of course, children now have cell phones, and tablets are babysitting them.
When we brought cell phones into Australia, we never imagined that a child would have a phone. And I was just talking to my lead researcher, Jed, about that this morning, and I feel sad that I didn't have that insight and that fortitude to think But, you know, we were carrying around a 5-pound phone or a 3-pound phone. We never thought that we would have this. And now these phones are way, way, way higher than the standards. When you saw that in the video, you know, that was measured, I believe, on an iPhone 7 or something like that, 700 times the standard that was set as the maximum. And that standard was set in 1996. It's never been updated. So now, you know, we're looking at a lot of these more powerful phones. Children are vulnerable. They are most vulnerable. Their skulls are thinner, their bodies are thinner, they're growing. You know, these are the things that we have to think about. And when we started this, Dr. Prasad and myself and my team, we started having discussions about that, which leads me probably into one of your next questions, and I'll hit
Yeah, because in fact, I'm glad that you just brought that up, because how did this go? Did you take this research to Dr. Prasad? Because you had some influence over this formula actually being developed.
Well, you know, I have been suffering from the symptoms. A lot of people call this EMF hypersensitivity. That's kind of a tagline. At our company, we've changed that a little bit to multiple sensory sensitivity, because a lot of the people that are sensitive to their electric fields are also sensitive to smell. And so they have struggles going to grocery stores with soap and things like that. And then they also have trouble with, for instance, loud sounds, vibration, things like that. So I'm sorry, I had something come up on my screen there. Multiple sensory sensitivity. But we, it's been about 8 years ago, I was given a manuscript by Jonette Beaversheimer, who's my lead researcher. And she shared it with me, and we shared it with Dr. Prasad, and we read this manuscript. And in that manuscript, I realized that I'd actually been suffering from this multiple sensory sensitivity since 1999. Since when I had a Nokia phone and I couldn't hold it. I didn't like holding it, made my hand hurt, made my head hurt. And I think that was really when I had that aha moment. Yeah. And after I read this manuscript, there was, in the early pages of this manuscript, there was a statement that rocked my world. Are you ready for it?
I'm listening.
I haven't told you this yet. So that statement was that a half an hour with your laptop on your lap kills 25% of your sperm.
Oh my goodness.
And when I read that, I started thinking about, you know, wow, I've been suffering from these symptoms since 1999, you know, 20 some years, and that I can't be alone. But more importantly, Dr. Prasad and I had a conversation about I called him one day. I said, I had this dream of a husband and wife sitting on their couch, you know, with their laptops on their laps and their cell phones beside them, watching their big screen TV, researching infertility.
Yeah.
And we had this kind of chuckle. And then he said to me, do you think that the single cell strand DNA could be affected from this radiation in the mother's eggs? And I said, absolutely. And he said, me too. And then he brought out the bomb and said, do you think the unborn baby's eggs could be affected?
Oh my.
So we're seeing these kinds of things.
Wow.
Now we're seeing it.
We're talking and DNA right now. Wow.
So we have to do time, distance, and shielding. This is cellular hygiene. That's it. You know, cellular hygiene. Don't sleep with your phone next to your head. You know, these little earbuds that people have in their head that are so convenient.
Yeah.
That's Bluetooth through the cabeza.
Yeah, bad news.
Bad news.
Yeah, bad news, bad news. So I remember back in the day when cell phones first came out, I would get headaches when I was on the phone. And as time progressed, I still was holding the phone in my head and I would get headaches. And then it finally, you know, my brain woke up and said, you know what, idiot, stop doing this. So so I stopped and I don't get the headaches anymore. And I just pointed at my thyroid. So I'm working on that. Okay, so I'm working on it. But now, short of going through big tech changes, technology changes, can microdaily EMF, can microdaily the nutrients tell us a little bit about your concept of how micronutrients make a difference in protecting us from this bombardment that we're undergoing?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that. I'm going to back you up just a skosh. And that is that, we shared with Dr. Prasad this manuscript, but in 2020, just as COVID was breaking out, Dr. Prasad and I lectured at the Oregon Chiropractic Convention, and we were standing on the big stage in front of about 450 doctors talking about the original military micronutrient formula. And afterwards, we had a chance to sit down with Dr. Prasad, and it so happened that the president of our company and the CEO of our company were there, and Jet and I sat down and some other members of our team and had dinner and talked about what our findings were, what we were seeing in the research over the past 5 years. And I think that was really a pivotal time, because I believe that it inspired Dr. Prasad. And that, that inspiration led to the EMF formula. And when we look at the play in words on the EMF formula, it is an enhancement of the military formula, EMF. It's an enhancement of the current military formula, as well as an electromagnetic field formula. And I was grateful when he came and said, "Hey, look at what we're doing," and we thought, this is cool. So that's been a profound part of our lives.
Wow, that is an eye opener. So, Dr.
But I had no part in, we just shared with them our research.
Okay, so the inspiration and the research was there, so there was a trigger. So that's a big deal. So, in your opinion, then, just from your professional perspective, Dr. Prasad has said that the EMF is important. He even mentioned that collagen daily has an effect on amyloids, which I think is amazing. And he also, of course, talks about the brain boost, and we all are, excited about these products. What's your take neurologically on how that combination works? And is there another component that needs to be added to it to make a difference?
Well, the most important is the microdaily EMF formula. And the reason this is the most important, this is the basis. This formula.
I like the kids' version of it, just so you know.
Well, we'll talk about that. This formula has not only saved my life, but we've measured it. And we had a woman in our clinic that she's 80 years old, and she's a professional musician. And she said, I don't feel very well. And so we tested her with our heart rate variability monitor, which measures the heart rate and the amplitudes and so forth. And her overall health was 17%. Now, many of us would be very shocked when we saw.
That's unnerving.
That's unnerving, right? But what was really unnerving to her was that she was 80, but according to this, her biological age was 80, but it measured her at 82. So she was pretty unhappy about being older than she actually was.
Wow.
We took 3 capsules, put them under her tongue, and let them dissolve, because I wanted to get into the brain as quickly as possible. Within 24 minutes, we showed her that video that you played, and then we remeasured her. And in 24 minutes, Jonathan, we changed her from 17% to 77%.
Oh, come on, get out of here.
We'll talk about this next time you have me on. I'll bring up the slides and show you.
Okay,
But
so
this is documented through the heart. Okay, this is documented through the heart. There's no smoke and mirrors here. This is what we measured in the field, and it improved from 17% to 77%. But you know what really closed the deal? Her age changed from 82 to 47. And at that point, she just looked at me and she goes, "I want it all.
Yeah.
Give me all of it." That was like the beginning of the Prasad choice, right? She's like, "I want it all." So we've measured that over and over and over again. But, if I was to talk about, what's my most important clinically when we're looking at people, People that are suffering from the EMF hypersensitivity or the multiple sensory sensitivity, they have the symptoms of anxiety. They have the symptoms of, brain fog. And when you start to feel this, it unnerves you. It unnerves you. So my go-to is the EMF formula and the CBD formula.
Okay.
This really calms things down, and we use this a lot for sleep as well. And sleep is a critical component. The other product that's absolutely critical, so I do kind of a good, better, best. The other product that's really critical is the probiotic.
Yeah.
Because think about what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
We hold it against our head, we point it at our thyroid, we point it at our heart, and then we point it at our small intestines. And that's where we're finding a lot of our research is that the small intestine is being affected by this. So EMF, probiotic, CBD. Now, I'm going to hit brain and eye boost because brain is where we hold the phone. We have to nourish the brain.
Right. Okay.
Eyes is where we stare at this. In fact, this is our next talk too. We don't think about this, but there's lots of literature out there that if you look at a phone last thing at night, how many people do you think do that?
Pretty
much everybody.
About 8 billion people on the.
It inhibits your brain from being able to create melatonin, but melatonin is actually created in the gut. Tryptophan to serotonin to melatonin.
Wow.
So melatonin is created in the pineal gland, but it's also created in the gut. So if we don't fix these areas and treat these areas from the environment that we're in, listen, it's time, distance, and shielding. But some of us, we have to work in front of computers. And so we have to protect ourselves from the inside out. If we don't, we will get sick. And we are already seeing a vertical climb in all-cause mortality. You said that yourself, and I love that statement.
16%. It's mind-numbing. It's mind-numbing.
It's got to be higher than that. So, the eye boost and the brain boost are really, really critical. Now, there are other boosts. So those of us that are feeling functional impairment, okay, that's the big word for this, functional impairment. I'm functional, but I'm feeling off. I can't put it together. So with functional impairment, the other thing that I use is I use hydro, or before I sat down to do this interview, I took an extra 3 of the micro daily. So I take up 3 in the morning and 3 at night. But when I'm doing an interview and I'm sitting in front of a computer, then I'm going to take some extra EMF and a few extra of the CBD. And then I've got my gummies here as well, but it's hard to speak with the gummies in your mouth. The thing I love about the gummies.
It can be done though.
It can. Just a pinch between your cheek and gum. The thing I love about the gummies is not only are these tremendous to protect our most vulnerable group of people, our children, the most vulnerable who have no choice in the matter. But they're also great for our oldies. And oldies is a name that we use back in Australia, for the old people. We call them the oldies. And if you give these to the oldies, you can put 12 of them in a candy dish and tell them they're gumdrops. And they love gumdrops. So we have great patient compliance with this. But in addition to that, when I was taking lots of films in my clinic, when the military formula was explained to me that it helped to protect from ionizing radiation, I immediately put that into my clinic. So anyone that was getting an X-ray got a double dose of the microdaily EMF prior to the exposure, and then they got another 3 to 4 day dose following the exposure. And that's the way I ran it, and that's the way I would still run it if I was shooting films at this point.
That makes perfect sense, and it sounds to me like we just got a solid education on why we need to take all of Dr. Prasad's products and good motivation. So I do want to drill down some more with you on concussive brain injuries and all kinds of other stuff that you know about the brain. But I think that there's a couple of folks on here right now who benefited from Dr. Prasad's formula that were maybe not as sensitive as you, but very sensitive. So do you, I mean, are you aware of someone that maybe could just share their story with us right now? I think Beth might be, she had an issue with that, I believe. Beth, are you willing to tell us your story? Otherwise, I've got a veteran's story that I believe was affected heavily by EMF, and clearly his whole life turned around from that. Are you there?
I'm here.
You shared your story, and I believe it was connected to EMF, right?
That's correct.
Would you mind, here for the sake of our audience, let them know what happened to you and how EMF affected you?
What happened to me was I was poisoned by a chemical called Sahara. I got the drift of it when they sprayed on the power lines. My house was too close to power lines, and they were the big transmission power lines. So that's kind of how it started. What happened to me afterwards is I ended up having my brain shut down to the point of I was less than a 2-year-old when I went through neurological testing. And then I was allergic to any electricity. I was in a black room for several years. I couldn't go anywhere. I could feel airplanes high in the sky. And what it would make me do is have a toxic reaction. It was called retching, but it's kind of like, like dry heaving, but it was constantly like 100 times a day or more. And my nervous system was extremely damaged. I was in a lot of pain, like thousands of needles were poking me 24 hours a day. I could not sleep. My brain was so foggy. It felt kind of like a bowling ball sitting on top of your shoulders constantly. And I couldn't deal with any type of movement. So this is nothing to joke with, y'all. It starts off very, it just eases up on you. So, a lot of people have, they get red cheeks when they're sitting in front of a computer for a while, or they, they can feel heat in their cheeks. That's radiation rash. Start getting a headache, start thinking, it's just like, I got to get up from this computer. So we're all feeling it. It's just that we've experienced it a little more than people. So the micro daily EMF has helped me tremendously. I am just extremely thankful for it.
Wow.
But I did write a book on Backyard Secret Exposed about my story.
Can you share a link to your book, please, in the chat?
Yes.
That would be just wonderful. So thank you very much, Beth, for sharing that snippet for us. Russ, is this shocking to you? We're gonna take a few questions here in a moment, but just want to hear your comment on her story.
To me?
Yes.
No, it's not shocking at all. And I know Beth, and she's telling the truth. None of us are going to adapt to this, but some of us are blessed to feel it first. So it's kind of like that frog in the pot that says, whoa, the water's getting a little hot, we should get out of here. Yeah. We have to do time, distance, and shielding. We have to use cellular hygiene, because if we continue to force our way through this, here's a statistic for you. A few years ago, I met a guy named Ole Johansson from the Karolinska Institute in San Francisco. We were walking and talking, and he looked at me, he said, Dr. Kort, do you know how much the grid has increased? He didn't say EMF, he said the grid. I said, no. And he said, in the last 10 years, and this was 5 years ago, in the last 10 years, the grid has increased 1 quintillion times.
Wow.
That's a 1, my brother, with 18 zeros behind it.
Wow.
So we all are exposed to this. We can't see it, we can't touch it, we can't taste it, we can't smell it, but some of us are blessed with being able to feel it. And with that, it is our moral responsibility to share the knowledge and to share the solution So the solution is time, distance, and shielding. The solution is protecting from the inside out.
Yeah.
No one has what we have.
Right.
We were never supposed to get this. It was to protect our soldiers from radiation, biowarfare, and extreme stress. And now with this EMF formula, it covers not only ionizing radiation, but non-ionizing radiation. And we have this moral responsibility.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And I hope everyone who's here now, especially if you're here for the first time, that you're getting it. 5G towers are going up everywhere. So radiation is very real. It doesn't matter whether you've got a 5G phone or not. You may not even have a cell phone. We're all being exposed to it. So
everywhere.
For those problems that doctors can't seem to figure out what the root cause of it is, it's a very high probability that it could be connected to something related to EMF or some form of radiation that you're being exposed to. So keep that in mind. So just for the record, folks, again, the FDA has not evaluated any of these comments that we're making. Testimonials are purely anecdotal. What happens to one person may or may not happen to you. We strongly recommend that you seek the competent medical advice of professionals that you trust when making decisions about your health and well-being. This is for information, education, and entertainment purposes. Solamente, that's it. So don't do anything I say because I say it. I'm not a doctor, and Dr. Kort, he can give you recommendations all day long. So he's got a license to do that.
But you know, Jonathan, and I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Please.
We're the tip of the spear at Dr. EMF. Okay. And I have these conversations with people all day, every day. And people look at me just dumbfounded and bleary-eyed because they never thought that our environment would become toxic to us like this. So the bottom line here is that when you go to your doctors and you start talking to them, if they look at you like you're crazy, you're not.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
We all have these devices, and there's things that we can do. You know, we can shut the router off at night. We can, you know, clean up our bedroom. We can clean up our cellular hygiene, and there's other things that we can do as well. But it's something that's ubiquitous in our environment. It's becoming more and more powerful. 5G is not what 4G is. It's not the same as 3G. And it's that accumulation of all the bees in the room. But the big killer bee is the fact that we all carry this on our bodies. We stick it against our head. We point it at our thyroid, our heart, our gut, and put it in our pocket. These are the things that we can make changes of. You know, Dr. Prasad and I talk about this, and he said that it's extraordinarily difficult to change human behavior, and that he doesn't believe that human behavior can be changed. And you know what? I'm going to go head to head on that, because if we don't change human behavior, if we don't share, if we don't inspire people to think differently, that percentage of all-cause mortality is not going to go from here. It's going to go like this. It's going to be a vertical climb. And the ones that suffer most are the ones that have never been out of it. Okay. Here's the bottom line. Anybody that's 25 years or younger has never been out of Wi-Fi.
That's all they know.
Think about it. And those kids, they all sat with their laptop on their laps. You know, I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 20-year-old son, and they lay in bed with their laptop on their lap, you know, and they have their phone, they sleep with their phone. This is an educational thing, and we all have to educate so that we can inspire people to make cellular hygiene changes. I believe that it is possible. I absolutely do, or I wouldn't be, you know, who I am and what I do today.
I am glad, I'm thrilled that you are as optimistic as you are. I really am. And I think that folks need to go on Google and Google Dr. EMF and tap into the information that's available there for you. And I highly recommend that you get some of the products. I personally put a shield on my phone, and I've purchased the headsets that have the tube on it so that there's no EMF near my head. So I highly recommend that, no question about it. But if you are having trouble with that, my suggestion is what I do, I carry around bottles of the gummies now because that's my snack. So it stops me from buying a Snickers. It stops me from buying a Mr. Goodbar or something else that's really garbage. I chew a few of these and unbelievable. You know, the craving goes down and the health benefit blows through the roof. Plus, it's helping me with EMF. So the gummies, I think, is a go-to. So I think they should take the kids thing off this bottle. It should not say kids formula. So
it has to, but it could say, you know, this is also, you know, one of my emergency essentials.
Ah man, I'm loving this stuff. I've gotten addicted to it. So, but anyway,
we're going to have more too, Jonathan. So we're going to have classes. We're going to have some more conversations. My team is working on bringing this all together for people because, you know, this is their first exposure, really, to looking at this and going, what? Okay. So I'm happy to work with you on this.
You plan on just making sure that you give us another session at the very least next month. You send me the date and we're going to plug you in. So we'll be doing this next week so folks can get some education on what they can do. So,
well, like I said, I have a team. So it's not just me.
Bring the team. Bring the team.
I got a team of people that are all brilliant. And,
bring the party. Yeah,
you know, they are amazing. They are amazing. And
that's good.
This is important. This is important for humanity. Okay.
I 100% agree. Let's take a couple questions. There's been a few questions in the chat that some have raised. Bernard, you saw one of the questions. I lost track of it. So raise your digital hand if you're trying to ask a question right now, please. We got a few more minutes because we could just go on and on here for days with this. Anel has a question. And please confine your question to the subject matter and keep it brief so that Dr. Kort can get to as many of these as possible. Okay, so keep it short. Thank you. Go ahead, please, Anel.
Yes. Good afternoon, and thank you for this chat, Dr. Kort. Thank you for being here, sir. My question was regarding microwaves and iPads. Is that the same, or do they still have that radiation damage? Because we all use microwaves, and that's awful.
Well, you know, the microwave came about from the military. It was actually called the radar range at first. The Amana radar range was the one that was in my motorhome. And it came about because the soldiers would stand close to the radar to stay warm. And then they put their hot dogs across the tape and cook their hot dogs. Well, hot dogs are cooked from the inside out in a microwave.
Yes.
You choose. Do we want to put that near our heads? And do we want to use it in our cooking? There are a lot of countries that don't use microwaves. I don't have one.
Wow. Dr. Nakuzi says that not only is a microwave neutralizing the nutrients in the food, it actually puts you in the negative. So when you eat food that has been microwaved, it's costing you.
Break it down. Would you eat food from Chernobyl?
Yeah.
Are you going to eat broccoli, you know, from a nuclear waste site? Are you, you know, these are, it's just,
yeah, I know.
Really, you got to look at the simplistic aspect of it. And that's the way I've always approached things. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you. Miriam Nora has a question.
Yes, good evening. Thanks so much for this presentation. Can you say how we can get the products and different things to protect ourselves and to build back our body?
Yes. Speak to the person who invited you to this discussion, and they will help you get access to all of Dr. Prasad's products. So they'll direct you on how to get microdaily EMF, how to get the probiotic boost, the CBD boost, and all the items that Dr. Kort just suggested. So speak to whoever invited you and they'll help you. But to get any of the additional products to help protect ourselves from cellular EMF and radiation, just Google Dr. EMF online, and that'll take you straight to Dr. Kort's company. You can get a bunch of products there and get more education on that. Okay, so just Google Dr. EMF.
Jonathan, our site right now is under construction. It'll be up in the next couple of weeks, so they may not be able to get into it. So, but thank you for the plug.
Very good. Very good. All right. Ed and Joyce Howard have a question.
Thank you. Ed Howard here. And I was just wondering if you might be able to give a little more insight into the mechanism of action, how it actually blocks or minimizes the EMF, the radiation, and all that kind of thing. I'm sure it's something that's quite using a lot of things can give you multiple benefit. But can you say anything about that?
That's a Dr. Prasad question.
Yeah, Dr. Prasad would give you the scientific response to it, but Dr. Kort commented on the clinical study with the laboratory rabbits that were exposed to high dose ionized radiation. And
we have 14 clinical studies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have 7 animal, 7 human, and 7 now soon to be 10 patents on this product. But when it comes to mechanisms of action and so forth, that's a question that needs to be directed to Dr. Prasad.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right. And Evelyn Burns has a question. Don't forget to unmute there, Evelyn.
And Beth is actually, I think she's posting some things on the chat.
Very good. Okay, Sharon Robinson. We'll come back to Evelyn if she's able to get back in.
Yes, I just want to know that, like if you're an electrician, are you exposed to the type of radiation you're talking about, like the towers and things like that, if you're just a normal electrician that runs lines?
Actually, you know, one of our big case studies was done on an electrician that worked at Intel, and he became functionally impaired, and he was functionally impaired for 15 months. And in his, hold on a second, I don't know what that is for. Huh? Okay, sorry. Staff is giving me our 800 number. I'll put it out so that you can have questions answered as well. I'll give that to you at the end. But this gentleman, he worked on a floor called the I think it was the 440 floor. Let's see, I have 220 panels, 440, and I think there was like 150 of these panels in his area. They had to wear special suits, and he worked there for about 10 years. And then one day he couldn't get out of his vehicle. He wasn't even in the building. He couldn't get out of his vehicle. And he went, he was functionally impaired for several months. And I think it was 9 months, and at home, but sitting at home, you know, in front of the TV, and because he just couldn't do anything, he didn't have the energy. And when we look at, you know, the symptoms that I had talked about, you know, the symptoms are like agitation, extreme weakness, like Beth had said, anxiety, heart palpitations, brain fog, sleep issues, can't sleep or can't wake up, balance issues, dizziness, vertigo, blood sugar issues, blood pressure issues. The whole system is taking a dump. And this man basically bedridden for 9 months. But he was out of the environment that made him sick long enough that he could go back. He went back. He was only there a couple of months, and he became functionally impaired again for 5 months. Then he went back, and he became functionally impaired again, and came to me. And when he came to me, he was in a wheelchair, and we brought him up to the clinic in a wheelchair. And with, you know, we do amazing things. And within 2 days, he was walking. And now, you know, he's part of our 3-year case study. This man has an incredibly powerful brain and is doing really, really well, just like Beth, just like myself. But, you know, to think that he wouldn't take these products, there's not a chance that he would not take the microdaily EMF and our suite of products. It's part of what we do. So to wrap up that with a nice big bow, electricians are some of the biggest people that we have that have issues. A lot of our military, because they're exposed to radar and a lot of other types of radiation. I have a gentleman that I take care of that's a Cobra pilot. He had 6 radios on him. Now is functionally, he's grounded because he can no longer fly. And you know, a lot of our airline pilots, especially going into a landing and taking off, and then, you know, in an airliner, that's another area that we found my functional impairment was when there's 300 people on their phones. I'm not awake. You know, I am impaired.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for your question.
That's powerful. We got one last question here. I'm gonna relaunch our attendance poll because we really want everyone to respond.
And I do want that electrician to come on to one of our programs, Jonathan. So we can do that. We'll bring him in.
Very good. Very good.
Next
Thank
question,
you.
Please.
Michelle Dean, please.
Okay, sorry, let me just submit this. Thank you so much. First of all, Dr. Kort, Jonathan, for this information. It's truly enlightening. Just two things. One is a question and one is a statement. I was always personally curious when it comes to airline pilots, you know, with their mortality because of flying different time zones in different countries and all that. I was always curious personally, what is the reason why some of them die at an early age? That's, you know, it almost takes me to something along this line as to the reason. This is my personal thinking, right? And then the second question is, when it comes to skincare equipment, I'm in the skincare industry, skin and wellness. So when it comes to the actual skincare equipment, especially phototherapy, you know, how the light penetrates through the skin, the different layers, the top layer and all that. How does radiation, for example, affect that? If you understand my question, or if I ask it in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Well, question number one, yeah, our pilots and our flight attendants are directly affected. Not only are they affected from the radiation, cosmic radiation, things like that, but they're also affected by the fact that there are many people that are on electronic devices. They're in the Faraday cage. They are the biological beings. We're all the biological beings within a Faraday cage. And as a result of that, we're all affected. Pilots are also, and flight attendants are affected because they're shift workers and they travel across time zones, which affects the brain. That's for another talk, another time. But that's something that you'll see. And then regarding the skin, you know, we have this skin suit, and the skin suit is the largest organ in the body, or the largest organ that we have. The skin suit is our first line of defense. So it is heavily affected by all the radiation. And I don't know if that answers your question, but the suite of products that we have protect from the inside out. And then, you know, I'm not aware of creams and so forth that protect from the outside in, but our suite of products protect from the inside out. And how do we know? At our company, Dr. EMF, we measure. And we just don't measure one or two things. We have a suite of areas that we measure. So we measure with EEG, HRV, the heart rate variability. We measure balance. We measure voice and cognition and vision processing. We measure the gut biome, and we also have proprietary labs, and we measure not only sugars, but we measure sleep. So sleep is a huge part in the restorative ability to heal. We have to have optimum nutrition, we have to have wakeful activities, and we have to have restorative sleep. And that brings me to the last point, and that's where I guess we need to put a bow on this, Jonathan. But the reason this product is taken twice a day is because we take 3 capsules in the morning to take us through this barrage that we're exposed to all day long. And then we take 3 capsules at night. Why? Because Dr. Prasad knew in his infinite wisdom that this is what carries us through the night so that our brain can recover from the day that we've experienced. It's a 2-a-day dose, and you don't miss it.
That's it. Very good. So, Shelley, did that answer your question?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did get an answer. Thank you so much, Dr.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, you gave us an earful there, Dr. Kort. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to having you back again next month. So we'll send out the date to everybody and have everyone back to hear what Dr. Kort has to say for us the next time. So before everybody leaves, I want to make sure that everyone knows that we've got Dr. Prasad coming next week. So we'll be talking about anti-aging. So you might want to just write that down. It'll be on the same Zoom link. To be part 1 and part 2, Dr. Prasad was just recently published on anti-aging. So you heard Dr. Kort talking about how he measured with his equipment an 82-year-old woman, 80-year-old woman who prior to taking the products registered 82 years old biologically. After taking the products in 25 minutes, she registered 40 years of age biologically. You're going to hear from the scientist, the formulator next week, how and why that could be the case. All right, so it'll be a 2-part discussion. So next week will be part 1 of it, and the following week will be part 2. So we look forward to having you folks back with us again next week.
May I ask my question now?
Someone has a question. Your name?
Evelyn Burns.
Evelyn Burns. Yes, please go ahead.
My question actually is for Dr. Kort. I wanted to ask him, where can we get those protective glasses that he's wearing? Dr. Kort?
I think that my staff put a link in the chat somewhere.
Oh, thank you.
On the glasses. Is that right?
He did. I know 1-800 number.
Oh, and I was going to give the 1-800 number.
Yes,
are you ready?
Please give the 1-800 number now for those who might be challenged with getting to the chat.
There you go. The 800 number is 1-800-261-9267.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Powerful. All right.
Very much.
And that will take you to one of my staff members that will be able to answer questions for you as well.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, good. Thank you so much. So, all right, Nick, take us on home. Thank you folks very much for joining us. For those of you who would like to, we're going to have an opportunity meeting in about 3 minutes. We're going to transition to an opportunity meeting and tell you all about it. If you want to get any of the Micro Daily products, get back with the person who invited you to this discussion and they will help you. Have a good night, everybody.
Great.
Thank you, Dr.
Great job, Dr. Kort.